ladies and gentlemen, the god of mischief. It's your boy Icon, and we're going over the Loki series now. And in this episode, which is episode 1, entitled Glorious Purpose, because that's what Loki is all about, glorious purpose. So here, this is this takes place directly during the Avengers Endgame, and they replayed the scene where, you know, the Avengers had captured Loki in the first Avengers movie, and then, you know, when the time travel Avengers came through, they tried to steal the Tesseract. They got the Tesseract, and then after they got the Tesseract, you know, the Hulk came, knocked Tony Stark down, the Tesseract went rolling over the floor, Loki picked it up and he disappeared. So now we find out what happens after he disappeared. He randomly landed in the desert somewhere, and while he was in the desert, he has the Tesseract with him. He gets ran up on, you know, by these, we'll just call them soldiers. And when the soldiers walked up to him, they took the Tesseract, and then, you know, they put like a collar around his neck, and they basically said he was in violation of, you know, ruining the timeline. At that point, I was just like, okay, like I kind of see where this one's going. And, you know, they basically arrested him. They brought him back to their headquarters, because they're the Time Bureau, or like the Time Variant Bureau. I forget the name that they use, but they're basically the time They're it's basically Legends of Tomorrow. Like the whole Loki show, it's basically Legends of Tomorrow with Rip Hunter and the Time Masters. Because, you know, like DC and Marvel, there's always a different version of something. So they have the time variants, and then, you know, they have the Time Masters. So now they bring Loki in, and they basically said that he violated like, you know, like the natural course of time, because as we all know about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have one timeline where everything is shared on one timeline. Like, it's not like DC where they have a multiverse. They specifically told Loki, they said that there were 3 gods that there actually was a multiverse, and they brought all the timelines together to create one single timeline that they control. So that was basically their way of telling us that's how the Marvel Cinematic Universe works. It's just one timeline and everybody's involved in it. But they said that every once in a while, you know, like somebody breaks, you know, like that, you know, like that, you know, that set timeline, and they go off and they run astray. And then it's the time variance jobs to bring that person back in and put them and reset them and put them back where they belong. And this is where it's like, this is where like the contradictions come in at, because, you know, they basically, because Loki even said he was just like, oh, you know, like escaping was part of the plan. And then, you know, like one girl told him, she was like, it wasn't part of the plan. You actually weren't supposed to escape. You were supposed to let them capture you, which would lead to the course of, like, you know, like your mom dying. But we'll get to that later. And then he was just like, oh, my purpose is my own, my actions are my own. And then he kind of threw the Avengers under the bus, because he said to the girl, like the judge who was trying to pass sentence on him, she said to him, he was just like, oh, but if your job is to protect the timeline and to stop people from breaking free from the timeline, shouldn't you be going after the Avengers, because the Avengers went back in time? And then he said that he knew that because he said he could smell the cologne on 2 different Tony Starks. So he knew the Avengers went back in time, but he thought the Avengers went back in time to stop him. And then she was just like, no, we're not here to talk about the Avengers, because they were supposed to do that. You weren't. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense, because to say that the Avengers were supposed to go through that and supposed to go back in time, then, like, it's weird, because if, like, the Avengers were supposed to do that, which means they were supposed to get their hands on the Tesseract. So the whole thing about Tony, so when the Hulk came busting through the door and knocked Tony Stark over, and then the Tesseract fell in front of Loki. So what the judge was trying to say was, Loki wasn't supposed to pick it up. He was just supposed to stand there. I'm like, that's stupid. Like, nobody would do that. And then the fact that he did pick it up and he disappeared, that led, because at that point, the moment he picked it up, the natural course of time or whatever that they're protecting, it's already been broken. Because what she's trying to say is, if Loki wasn't supposed to pick up that, you know, wasn't supposed to pick up the Tesseract, then that means Tony Stark and Cap, they were never supposed to go to New Jersey. Tony was never supposed to bump into his dad. You know, Steve was never supposed to see Peggy at the military base. That whole scene at the military base basically wasn't supposed to happen, according to them. It was just like the event, like Tony was just supposed to escape with the Tesseract, get a slice of pizza, and then they were supposed to come back. So, but I'm just like, the fact that happened Why are y'all not trying to fix that? Did the Avengers, because of Loki, did the Avengers break free of the natural flow of time? Did they get themselves back on course? Did they course correct it or not? So nobody really addressed that, which I thought was which I thought was pretty odd. And then the whole thing about Bruce Banner in Avengers Endgame, when Bruce Banner gave the whole speech about changing the past does not change the future. And I understand what Bruce was trying to say, because he was basically saying, like, if your life is spread out, if this represents like the course of your life, and actions are taking place the way they're supposed to act, the way they're supposed to happen, and everything here represents your future. His whole thing was, if you go to the past to change, like to alter something or to change something, it doesn't change like your future, because you going to the past now becomes a part of your future. Like in the natural course of your life from beginning to the end, traveling to the past has now become your future. And then he said that the events that took place which made you travel to the past, those can't be changed, because if you go back in time and if you change something, then if you change it, there's no reason for you to go back in time anymore. So you going back in time has to happen. So he was just like, it's like, like I said, the Bruce was basically trying to say, like, it doesn't alter anything, because certain events need to take place to justify you traveling through time to begin with. And I get that. The problem is, if that's the case, and if changing the past doesn't change the future, what's the point of having a time variant bureau at all? Because if somebody goes back in time, you would think they would step in, to course correct something. But unless they're trying to say that, oh, these people were meant to go back in time and we're just supposed to stay out of it because that's what's supposed to happen. It's just very weird. It's like, it's almost like, now I'm like, Bruce Banner's whole speech was wrong now, because again, that's the whole point of having a time variant, is for what Bruce said. And if changing the past doesn't change the future, then this whole organization is basically useless. So, but anyway, they're about to sentence Loki, and I guess they said they were going to reset him. They were going to put him back where where he belongs. And then at that moment, Owen Wilson sat up. Yeah, I believe he's Owen Wilson, because his brother Luke Wilson, he's on Stargirl. So Owen Wilson stood up, and then there was a black a black female time variant police officer, cop, soldier, or whatever. She played the sister in Lovecraft Country, which is interesting. But anyway, they basically, like, they were about to sentence Loki, I guess, to be reset or whatever. And then, like, Owen Wilson sat up, and then he was just like, he was like, let me talk to him, let me sit and talk to him, because he's one of the people, the detective that's in charge of, like, protecting the timeline. And there's another time variant that basically broke free, and this person is killing people throughout the course of time or whatever. So, Owen Wilson went to go talk to Loki, because I guess he wanted Loki's help to try to catch this person that he's trying to catch. And then he sat down, he talked to Loki, he tried to ask him, he was just like, why do you enjoy killing people? He was basically trying to get into his head and try to find out what his motivation was. There's a reason why he was trying to ask him all that. Loki didn't want to answer, and then Owen Wilson started playing Loki, This Is Your Life. He basically, like, pulled up his entire life and started scrolling through every single thing that happened. He showed him the events of him supposed to be getting locked up, the creatures on Asgard, what staircase to take, which eventually led to his mother's death. And then after that, Loki kind of got emotional, then like he kind of snapped. Now they had this collar around his neck that they could control. It could make Loki go slower, make him go faster. They could put him in one place and switch him to another. It was basically designed to keep him in check. Loki's a smart dude, so he kept his eye on that device the whole time. And then at the right moment, he stole the device from Owen Wilson's pocket, and then he used it to basically escape. He was going all throughout the facility. Everybody was chasing him, trying to get him, like, back under wraps. They were trying to handcuff him again. He bumped into the black chick. He put the device on her, so they had her moving all over the place. So he was basically trying to plan his escape. He ended up going back into the room where his life was queued up for him. And then since everybody was looking for him and trying to find him, he took that moment to basically scroll through his entire life to find out what happened. And as he was scrolling through his life, he saw the moments of, when his mom died. He saw the moments of him trying to do his villainy, his treachery. He saw Thor Ragnarok, unfortunately. He got to the events where him and Thor, he saw when his dad died, when Odin, like, passed away. He saw that. And then, he saw, like, he heard the speech that Odin gave to him saying that he loved him as a son. You know, when his mom said she loved him, you know, like as a son or whatever, he saw the moment where him and Thor actually came together and banded together as brothers. And then, you know, he saw the moment where Thanos killed him. And then, you know, and he basically saw his entire life flash before his eyes, and he saw that he died a hero. When Owen Wilson came back into the room, he pretty much, they even showed the Phil Coulson thing, which I thought was cool. But then, you know, Owen Wilson basically told him, he was just like, yo, your purpose in life is to serve as a thorn in the side of the Avengers to help them become the people that they're meant to be. He was like, you're basically just a supporting character. He was like, you know, you're not the king of the world. Like, you're not gonna, like, you don't win. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, that's basically it. He's like, yo, like, your whole thing is you don't win. Like, you're supposed to just help the heroes progress into the people that they are. You know, after that, like, Loki kind of like, he kind of like felt bad for a little bit, and then he kind of calmed down a little bit, and then he told the guy, he was just like, you know, he was just like, screw it. He's like, I ain't got nothing else going for me. I already saw how my life ends. So he was just like, fine, I'll help you. So, you know, what can we do to help you? You know, and what can I do to help you? And then, you know, Owen Wilson told him, he said that, you know, he's chasing a very dangerous criminal throughout the course of time. And then Loki was just like, oh, so you need my help, you need my prestigious talents to help track down, you know, like a dangerous criminal. And then he was like, oh, who is this person that you time variant people can't catch? And then he was just like, oh, that person is you. Because apparently I'm assuming it's a younger version of Loki also became a variant and escaped through time, and now he's going through time murdering a whole bunch of people. So now the time variants they're enlisting the help of Loki to catch Loki, so they can figure out what young Loki's next step is, which is why Owen Wilson even said it. That's why Owen Wilson sat with him, and he was trying to figure him out, trying to see what motivates him, because he's trying to catch the other version of him. When he was in the courtroom, and then, you know, Loki was just like, oh, you don't know what I'm capable of. Owen Wilson stood up and he was like, well, I know what you're capable of, because I'm trying to catch the younger version of you murdering people throughout the course of time. So, you know, so that, like I said, that was it. And then they showed like a shadow silhouette of young Loki, you know, with the horn thing on or whatever, which was cool. But that was it. That was it for the episode. And, I mean, it was okay. The whole thing was okay. It's, like I said, it's just very, you know, we got the whole Doctor Strange multiverse of madness coming up. So obviously this whole thing with these time gods or whatever, obviously it's not going to work. What's going to happen, it's not going to work. And they talk so much about trying to preserve this one specific timeline. Obviously the thing's going to blow up. It's going to spread out into a bunch of different timelines. And then that's where we're going to get the multiverse of madness. Hell, I'm going to say it right now. These 3 time gods that are charged with preserving and protecting the timeline, I guarantee you they're the ones that let young Loki loose to begin with, because they wanted him to create this mischief and this havoc for whatever reason. It just so happens that like old Loki is in the picture now. And I can't even really say it's old Loki, because the Loki that we're getting in the show, this is the Loki from the first Avengers movie. It's not Thor Ragnarok Loki. It's not Dark World Loki. It's not Avengers, you know, Infinity War Endgame Loki. We're getting Avengers Part 1 of, you know, the first Avenger movie Loki. That's the person who we're getting now. So we'll see what happens. You know, my whole thing with the show is, because of things like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, which is a time travel show, Back to the Future. That's why, like, now that Marvel is now all of a sudden getting on the multiverse time travel thing, I'm just kind of like, you know, like, I'm not really excited about anything they're doing time travel wise, because I already seen it. Again, when I saw the whole time variant, you know, bureau thing, I was like, oh, just like Legends of Tomorrow, you know. So they're gonna have to do something to make me care more about, you know, like the time variant bureau. But like I said, but it was decent so far. You know, like nothing amazing happened so far. We found out that the Infinity Stones are useless. There's like a whole bunch of Infinity Stones just sitting around doing nothing, which was kind of cool as well. And we'll see what happens in the end, because this could cause for certain characters to come back, you know, things like that. We'll see how WandaVision ties it, and, you know, and all that other stuff. So thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of the first episode so far. I mean, these Marvel shows are, you know, they always start off slow for me so far. Like WandaVision was slow. Like Falcon Winter Soldier started off slow. Falcon and Winter Soldier I ended up liking, you know, in the middle towards the end. WandaVision got good in the middle, but I didn't like the ending. But like I said, Loki's basically following the same trend, so we'll see if it gets better as things progress. Check me out on social media. Check me out on Twitter. Check me out on Instagram, and check me out on YouTube. Leave your comments and or concerns so we can continue to talk about all this superhero goodness. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So for Loki, until episode 2, enjoy your glorious purpose. And about this bitch.